Hey guys, my name is Dr. John Evans with YouFixPain.com, and I'm going to be teaching you the best techniques and stretches and exercises on how to treat biceps tendonitis. We're going to go way beyond just the basics. So if you want to take it to the next level, let's tune in and learn what we got next. So the anatomy of the bicep is this. Bicep, bi means two, so you have two heads of it. It comes up and attaches here on the anterior aspect of your shoulder, and then also a little bit more medial in here. Now, the two parts of the bicep also come together and attach deep into your elbow. Underneath your bicep is a muscle called your brachialis. That brachialis muscle also helps with movement like this throughout your elbow. Now, your bicep muscle not only flexes here, it also flexes your shoulder, and it helps rotate your wrist into supination. So if any of those movements are causing you pain, then it's likely that the biceps or the brachialis is involved. The typical areas of pain whenever you have a bicep involved are right in the mid-belly of the bicep, or even down into the elbow, or even in the proximal aspect of your shoulder. So a throbbing sensation, pain with movement, sharp pain with like tingling and numbness isn't as typical, and that can typically mean something else is involved. But in general, if you have an ache or a throb in the middle of your bicep, right here on the front of your shoulder, or down into your elbow joint, that's pretty common of the bicep tendonitis or bicep involvement. There's a number of different factors that can cause your bicep or your brachialis to be painful, but the most common is overuse. So say you're in the gym doing a ton of lifting, or you're out in the yard doing a lot of work where you're using that arm. What happens is the tissue gets so bound up that it lacks blood flow. It becomes something that we call is ischemic. Now, ischemia leads to poor nutrition, poor oxygen, poor blood flow to that area, and then you can get all this pain that refers down into your elbow, or it's just in your bicep, or even in your shoulder, or down even into your hand. With each one of these exercises or these stretches or these techniques that I'm going to teach you, just keep in mind that it's not no pain, no gain. So what we're trying to do is increase circulation, because as we learned earlier, a lot of your pain is typically caused by a lack of blood flow. So what we want to do is cause a variety of different mechanisms to increase that blood flow and get that muscle more nourished and moving back to how it used to. So with these stretches and these different techniques that I'm about to show you, just remember, you don't want to go above a 5 out of 10 in terms of pain. So if you start going above that, then you're pushing a little bit too hard. Now, there's going to be some situations that I'm going to show you that it may be more painful than a 5 out of 10, and as long as I'm giving you instruction that that's normal, then you're good. Now it's time to get into the stretches and me to start teaching you some different techniques on how to expedite your recovery. All right, this is the most simple, straightforward stretch that everyone needs to be doing if you have bicep pain or brachialis pain. What you're going to do is you're going to put your hand up on the wall. So I'm perpendicular to the wall right now. My palm is facing away. And what I'm doing is I'm just leaning towards the wall while keeping my palm up against the wall. I'm going to hold it for about 10 to 15 seconds, and then I'm going to relax. I'm going to do that 5 different times. So I'm going to do it with you right now. So we're going to count to 15, and then we'll do it 5 times. So 1, 2, 3. And as I'm doing this, I'm leaning more and more into the wall to feel an increased stretch. If I feel a big stretch already, I don't need to lean into it anymore. All right, that's about 15 seconds. Go ahead and shake it out. Get that blood flow going again. And we're gonna do this about 4 more times. Once again, my hand goes up on the wall between shoulder height and hip height. We're gonna lean into it and feel a nice big pull. And I count to 15 once again. Now, if your hand's starting to go numb a little bit, it's totally normal. If your hands are starting to tingle, that's completely fine. It's just because you're stretching out that bicep and putting a little bit of pressure on the nerves. Go ahead and shake it out again. Now, each time that you do this, you should notice kind of like a release, as if there's more blood flow going into your arm. Let's do it again. So now, if you feel like it's starting to loosen up a little bit, you can bring it up even higher and then lean into it. Now notice I'm getting closer and closer to the wall the more that my bicep loosens up. About 15 right there. Go ahead and relax. Now, something else to focus on when you're doing these stretches is breathing. Breathing in and out will help you get deeper into the stretch. So we're gonna put that hand up another time, okay? Notice I'm about shoulder height now. I'm leaning into it. I'm breathing in through my nose, breathing throughout my mouth, smelling the roses, blowing out the candles. That's what they say anyway. We're just leaning into it. Now I'm starting to feel a pull across my pec as well. It's totally fine. Just find that spot where you feel the biggest stretch. Go ahead and shake it out again. We'll just do it one more time. Hand up, leaning into it. Now what I'm gonna do on this last set is I'm gonna teach you guys how to take it to the next level. So if you feel like you're getting a good stretch, great. But if you wanna get even a bigger stretch, what you can do is you can turn this into a muscle energy technique. So what I mean by that is you're gonna push into the door with your hand as if you're trying to push that wall away. So you're trying to flex that elbow into the wall. And what's gonna happen is it's gonna help release that muscle even more. So I'm gonna lean into it, get a good stretch, and then I'm gonna push into that door or this wall as if I'm trying to push it away, hold it for a couple seconds, push, 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 and relax. And as I relax, I don't take my hand off the wall, I just lean into it more. Now I'm leaning into it, and then I relax. Then I try to push into that wall again. I'm gonna push, 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 push that wall away and relax, and then just get deeper into the stretch. Now we're on to the next stretch. So what we're gonna be doing, we just focused on loosening up the biceps. Now we're gonna be loosening up your forearm and your wrist and your biceps all in one. In addition to that, we're gonna be loosening up your nerves. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna face towards the wall, your fingers are extended straight out in front of you, and you're gonna drop your palm towards the wall, and then you're gonna turn your wrist upside down. Now some of you guys are gonna struggle on keeping the palm up against the wall. So if that's the case, either try to push harder or lower it a little bit and it'll make it easier. Now once we're in this position, I'm gonna turn away and you're gonna feel a nice little pull all the way throughout here. Your hand may start to go a little numb or tingly. That's totally normal. You're just putting pressure on your wrist and limiting blood flow, and you're putting a little tension on the nerves. It's totally normal. Once you take your arm off, it'll go away. So we're going from fingertips down to palm, flip it over, turn away from it. So now I'm perpendicular to the wall. Now, if you feel a good stretch, great. This is as far as you have to go. If you don't feel that much of a stretch, bend your head away towards your opposite ear. So like that, okay? So I'm gonna bend away and I don't hold it. I just keep going back and forth. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do this about 20 times. And I'm just gonna keep going back and forth. And I'm gonna do this with you guys just so you know what to expect. Now, the more that we do it, the less stretch I feel. Now, you can feel this pull in a number of different ways. Some people may feel it going through their wrist, their elbow, their shoulder, even into their neck. All that's completely normal. I'm gonna keep going here. My hand's starting to go a little bit numb. It's totally normal. My forearm's starting to get a little tired, but it's all good in the neighborhood because that's what we're trying to do. We want to increase the circulation into those muscles so then they're not as ischemic and they heal a lot faster. So you can go to 15 if you want. If you're not fatiguing like I am, I just must be weak, then you can keep going 15 if you want, but I'm gonna stop here after 1 or 2 more. But ideally, between 10 to 20 times is the trick, and we'll move on to the next one. There's also another more simple exercise where you don't need a wall force. So say you're out in public and you just want to keep that bicep and your forearm loose. It's pretty straightforward. All you're going to do is lock out that elbow, turn your palm up. You're going to pull down on your fingers, lock out that elbow. Now, you can do this stretch. You can hold it for 15, 20 seconds. Well, if you want to turn it into the next step of exercises, then what you do is you turn it into a muscle energy technique. So what I'm doing is I'm holding this position and I'm getting a nice pull throughout my entire arm. Now, if I want to turn it into a muscle energy technique, I'm going to try to flex my fingers up, and that's going to put more strain throughout my forearm and my bicep. And I'm going to try to push my arm up at the same time. So I'm flexing up and pushing up into my hand, and this turns into a muscle energy technique. So I push up, 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 hold, push, and then I relax. And then I'm going to feel like I can get more mobility through pulling my fingers back, and it will really loosen up your forearm and your bicep. So let's try it again. You're gonna push out into your fingers and then push up towards the ceiling, but I'm resisting it with my other hand. So I'm keeping my arm from getting elevated. Push, 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 and relax. And as you relax, pull more tension back on those fingers. And you just keep going back and forth with that. And I would do it about 4 or 5 times until you feel a good release. This stretch you're gonna perform while you're sitting on the ground. Your hands are gonna be turned this way away from you, and your knees are gonna be bent up. So, once again, I'm going to perform this stretch with you. Hands are facing away. knees are bent up, and I'm lifting my hips up towards the ceiling and dropping my hips towards my feet. And you're gonna feel this big stretch from here all the way down to wherever you're tightest. So I'm gonna do it with you. So hands turned away, behind you, knees bent up, lifting up those hips, dropping down towards your feet. Hold it for about 10 to 15 seconds. Once again, you should be feeling a nice stretch anywhere from the forearm into the biceps. And if you don't, drop your hips further away from your hands. We're gonna hold that for another couple seconds, and then you relax, shake it out. If your hands start to go numb or a little tingly, that's totally normal. It shouldn't be causing more than a 5 or 10 out of pain. And then we just go right back into it. You can do this 3 to 5 times. Really the idea is if you're feeling a good stretch, then keep doing it. Lifting those hips up, dropping down, feel that nice pull, focus on deep breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And as you're doing that, try to drop deeper and deeper into that stretch. Okay, go ahead and relax, shake it out, do a little dance, and we're gonna do it all over again. Palms facing away, lift up, drop down towards the hips, focus on that deep breathing. And each time you do this, try to get further and further into that stretch, and you'll get more results that way. All right, and if you want to do that another 2 times, it's totally fine. I'm starting to feel a good stretch across my biceps. I've provided a full PDF document that writes out each one of these exercises so it makes it easier for you to follow. Go ahead and look at the link below. I like doing scraping right after I do cupping, because with cupping you get this localized blood pooling over your bicep or your brachialis. And then when you do the scraping, it helps disperse that blood pooling that you get across your bicep. So whenever you do scraping, think of it like this. If you put down a bunch of toothpicks like this and you run your hand over the top, it's gonna help realign those toothpicks where they're all facing the same direction. That's what you're doing when you're scraping your tissue in your arm or any part of your body. So we're gonna take this tool. You can get them for about 20 to 30 bucks off of Amazon, and I'll leave a link below on how you can find those. I'm gonna put it about a 30-degree angle from my arm, and I'm gonna be stroking the entire bicep all the way up towards the shoulder. Now, the faster I go, the quicker it's gonna numb those nerve receptors, and it's not gonna be as painful. I'm gonna do this for about 1.5 to 2 minutes, depending on what I find. Now, some people might be really gritty in their bicep, and you might have to work longer, but once you start getting a good color change throughout your bicep, you know you've done a good job. Now, another thing to focus on as well is if you're going over an area and it's really gritty and really bumpy, focus on that area a little bit longer. But if you notice, I'm going nice and fast, and I'm just trying to get that blood flow going even more into my arm. So once again, about 1.5 to 2 minutes, you want to see a nice flush red color change. You're not trying to rip your arm off. Make sure there's lotion on there. And you're doing this for about 1.5 to 2 minutes. And now we get to move on to the next one. What we're gonna do next is an active release technique. So it's a lot like massage, except to the next level. What we're trying to do is increase blood flow just like we did with all the other techniques. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna apply a pressure over a tender spot in your bicep, because this is the muscle that's causing you pain, or your brachialis. So let's start off with the bicep. What you're gonna do is you're gonna find a top band that's a little tender to the touch, and you're gonna apply pressure through it, and then you're gonna start moving your arm back and forth. This should not feel good. You're probably gonna feel about a 4 or 5 in terms out of, you're probably gonna feel a 4 or 5 out of 10 in terms of pain. I'm gonna hold that pressure and just keep moving my arm back and forth until I feel like that tenderness is going away. And then I'm gonna go to another spot, find another top band. There's one, and then I'm just gonna start doing the same thing, back and forth until that releases. Now, to get to your brachialis, you can either pull your bicep in and then push right over the top, or you can come in underneath your bicep and you're gonna find a nice little band of tissue in there that feels really good, or not really. And then you're gonna hold it there, and then you're gonna start moving your arm back and forth. Once again, this is not gonna feel good. It's about a 4 or 5 out of 10 in terms of pain. And you just keep doing this until you feel like you've gotten a good release in your bicep. All right, so now we're gonna use this lacrosse ball for releasing that muscle even more. Earlier, you're using your fingers to dig in and do an active release. Now we're gonna use a lacrosse ball. So it's the same premise. What we're trying to do is break up any adhesions that you have in your bicep or your brachialis and just get more circulation in that area. So what you do is you take a lacrosse ball, you find a wall corner or a door frame, and you're gonna apply it right across the mid-belly of your bicep. And you're just gonna use your body weight to lean into that wall, and then you can go up and down on it. It's like you're foam rolling your bicep. And you're gonna do this for about a minute, and you're just gonna go back and forth. And it's not gonna feel that great. It's probably gonna be a 3 to 5 out of 10 in terms of pain, but it's a great way, once again, of releasing tissue. So you can also use this for doing muscle energy techniques. So what you would do is you'd put it in the mid-belly of your bicep, once again, so right there in the meaty part of your bicep. Now, instead of rolling up and down on the wall like this, like you were doing before for a minute, now I'm just gonna hold it in place up against the wall, but then I'm gonna move my arm back and forth as much as I can. So I'm gonna lean into it with my body weight, find a nice little pressure point, and then I'm gonna start trying to do some like elbow extensions. I'm gonna push my hand into the wall. I'm just gonna keep going back and forth in flexion and into extension. And if it's not painful, you're not in the right area, or you need to push harder with your body. So you're gonna do a combination of both the active release, where you put this into your bicep, you roll up and down for a minute, finding those sweet spots, and then you're gonna do a muscle energy technique, and that's where you put this into your bicep and just leave it in that spot, and then you're gonna be extending your elbow and then flexing your elbow into that wall until that pressure releases, and then you go and find another spot, and typically you do that for about a minute. And these will do a really good job at releasing your bicep and your brachialis. I like doing these exercises or these manual techniques all in a certain order. So I like starting off with the cupping and then following it with everything else. So you do the cupping first, and then you do the scraping, and then you do the active release. What happens when you do the cupping is you get this localized pooling of blood, which is what we want, but then we want to disperse it so then it doesn't bruise as bad and you get blood flow to the entire area of the bicep or the brachialis. Don't forget to check out the links below for our online course. We have a biceps tendonitis course that goes really in depth on everything that you should be doing over the course of 22 days. We go deep into manual techniques, things that you can be doing to expedite your recovery that's not covered in this video. It lays out all the specific exercises, stretches, and strengthening things you should be doing progressed over time to get your best and quickest recovery. There's also links below for the different equipment that we're using in this video to help expedite your recovery. If this information was helpful for you, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button down below, and you guys have a great day.